that they fear, not man or his armies.
Good day. You know when you finish a game, and you love that game so much that it's kind of hard to play out the games after it? Yeah, Doom Eternal is one of those games. I'm pretty lucky, because just before Doom Eternal's release, a 32-map megawad for Classic Doom called Oops All Tech Base came out, and it's helping me get through that post-Doom Eternal slump. To make it clear, I am saying that Doom Eternal actually equals the quality of Doom 1993. It's that bloody good. It's kind of crazy to think that 27 years after the release of Classic Doom, Doom is still kicking ass and taking names, and its modern version is kicking equal amounts of ass and taking equal amounts of names. I'm glad that I've been a Doomer from the very beginning, because it's amazing just how the franchise has endured and innovated over the past 27 years. This review will be spoiler-free and will show only the first few levels to preserve all the high-quality wow moments. I am primarily going to be using footage from my Day 1 livestream, along with some footage recorded afterwards. If you've not played the game, please refrain from spoiling yourself via the YouTubes, as going in blind just makes the experience that much sweeter. In a few months, I will do a full in-depth analysis of Doom Eternal, going level by level and weapon by weapon, and I will be looking at the story in detail. So now, let's jump right into Doom Eternal. The gameplay for Doom Eternal is nothing short of exquisite. It innovates while staying true to the principles of what made Doom great to begin with. Doom 2016 tried to innovate but went too far, and thus felt less like a Doom game and more like a first-person splatterhouse. The big issue was the fact that the game over-relied on the glory kill. Most weapons couldn't kill enemies in a few hits, and glory kills dropped ammo in addition to health. The chainsaw was often underused because ammo was so plentiful. The game was also quite a bit easier, barring a few difficult bits here and there. Doom Eternal fixes literally all of this. The glory kills no longer drop ammo, you carry less ammo overall, and enemies take fewer hits to kill. The enemies also do way more damage and come in larger numbers, to the point where you want to outright kill them instead of stagger them, so they don't recover from that stagger and continue attacking you. Due to the scarcity of the ammo, the chainsaw is really the only reliable way to get ammo right when you need it, and thankfully, the animations do not go on over long, and you will often come to rely upon the chainsaw's one-hit kill to keep yourself alive. The weapons feel a bit better, and the designs for them look a good degree like their classical counterparts, and the machine cannon actually looks somewhat like the machine gun from Quake 3. The alt-fire modes take a greater importance as well, with some of them being downright required to stay alive. Doom Eternal features multiple bloody upgrading systems. You can upgrade the Praetor suit, as you could in the previous game. You can upgrade your weapons, just like in the previous game, but they added something for the lazy players, and at first I thought it was worse than it actually is. You can pick up a mastery token to fully master a firearm without having to complete a challenge. At first I thought you had to pay for it, but thankfully you can find it in-game. The grenade has been replaced with a grenade launcher that is bolted to the Doomslayer's shoulder that looks somewhat like the shoulder cannon from Predator, and it is extremely useful in fighting groups of enemies. You also get a wrist blade that is pretty cool, but you can't actually use it outside of glory kills. Yes, there are still arenas, but they are nowhere near as obnoxious, and they do not go on nearly as long, and you no longer have to suffer through demonic presence at unsafe levels. Like in the original Doom, you always feel like you are constantly progressing to a goal instead of being locked in a goddamn room until the last bastard has been blasted. Key hunts have been dropped in favor of puzzles. You are often dropped into a room without an obvious way to progress, and it's up to you, the player, to figure out what to do. This does not bring the gameplay to a screeching halt. Rather, it turns off the id and turns on the thinking part of the brain and allows you to relax after blasting bastards, so you don't get tired of blasting bastards. Doom 2016 had an issue where it got pretty dull killing cretins after a while because you were doing the same thing over and over again. Shooting's fun, but too much of a good thing can be bad, and variety is the spice of life. What also spices up the game was a very pleasant surprise, and that pleasant surprise was the platforming. Doom 2016 had some, but it felt tacked on and felt less like variety and more like a roadblock to fun. Here, however, the platforming has been drastically improved to the point where it is in many respects just as fun as the shooting. Your jumps are easier to control, and you have been given a dash move so you can jump further. You can now climb certain walls in addition to mantling. You can also swing on poles like a rather beefy version of Ezio from Ass Creed. And the platforming is not just a means of progressing through a given level, it is part and parcel of the Doom Eternal experience, and has been fully integrated into the gameplay. You will come to platforming challenges that require you to plan your jumps and figure out just where you can jump to. With that in mind, we find that Doom Eternal is not just a kick-ass first-person shooter, it is also a first-person puzzle game, along with being possibly the best first-person platforming game ever made. Also, jumping from flying coffins has gotta be the most fucking metal thing I have ever done in a first-person shooter. All three game types keep the player invested in the game and never let the player become bored with any of the game types. And we haven't even gotten to all the collectibles. The game is so full of collectibles that Donkey Kong would salute Doom Guy with pride. There are cheat discs to find, artwork to steal, and 2 different types of challenge rooms to play through, one of which requires you to scour a level for a hidden key to access. The more collectibles you find, the more swag appears in the, oh, hellos, yes, the Fortress of Doom, aka the Doom Cave. In between 2016 and this game, Doomslayer got his own motherfucking space fortress, and it is glorious. It is filled to the brim with not just regular awesome detail, but rather, in the modern vernacular, fuck awesome detail. Doomslayer even gets his own man cave within his fuck awesome fortress, and one of his books references Flynn Taggart by name, and there is another book called Why I'm So Great Part 2 by Dork Norcom. You can also unlock new Doomslayer suits by finding an easy-to-find in-game item called a Sentinel Battery. And yes, thank the great space god Korn! You can unlock the original suit, along with a few others. Once I unlocked the classic Doom suit, I wore it for the rest of the game, and it really fits within the rest of the game. From the Doom Fortress, you can replay completed levels to find more collectibles, and you can access remastered levels as well. You can also unlock Doom 1 and 2 at the classic PC via code and collectible discs. Graphically, the game looks absolutely excellent, and I absolutely love the art style that id Software went with. Instead of it being really realistic, the art style is instead much more stylized and fits the overall tone of Doom quite well. The voice acting is once again top Yeti tier, and the music is okay. The soundtrack for Doom 2016 was divisive for some, but I loved it. And I can name you my favorite tracks: Skull Hacker, Hellwalker, Rip and Tear, Main Theme, and lest we forget, BFG Division. Mick Gordon did a good job with Doom Eternal soundtrack, and the music works great in the game, but not so great as individual songs, as they are merely loops. The soundtrack is not bad, but it's a bit of a letdown when compared to Doom 2016's, and alas, holds no candles to the Quake 2 soundtrack. On day one, the PC port was thankfully functional, although, due to using a GTX 970 graphics card, the recommended settings is medium, unfortunately. However, graphics in medium settings still look pretty good. I played the entire bloody game with the Xbox 360 gamepad, and the game controlled quite well with it. And it's kind of an advantage in some respects. When you bring up the weapon wheel, just like in Doom 2016, the game slows down a little bit, and this can actually help keep you alive in very frantic environments. The story is fuck awesome. Doomslayer has way more character moments than in 2016. After like the first 2 levels in that game, Slayer didn't do much in the way of emoting. Here, he emotes more than a 15-year-old who has just discovered smashing pumpkins. The helmet for Doomslayer is now clear enough for you to see his eyes, and this goes a long, beauty way towards humanizing the Slayer. The whole game really is based around giving you a much more grounded experience. In the first game, just saying, Satan! Works. But in the sequel, we need more than a nebulous enemy. Here we have named foes and an enemy faction that is actually comprehensible. Thanks to the story, the player gets to feel like a real bloody hero. And this is something that I cannot applaud id Software enough for. Old first-person shooters made you feel like you were a hero protecting the innocent and punishing the guilty. At some point, FPS has moved away from this, but Doom Eternal embraces this with open fucking arms. The intro to the game really drives home the point that the Doomslayer is the proverbial big good. It starts up with some civvies crying out for a hero while the Doomslayer tools up, and ends with the Slayer heading into the Slipgate. Yes, they call it that, to send some 12-gauge punishment upside the heads of the foul demons. And this is where I shall stop, as the story and the rest of the gameplay needs to be played rather than spoiled. When pre-ordering a game, you have to ask yourself one question. Do you feel lucky, punk? Well, do you? Because you never know if you're going to get the game you really want. In today's world of subverting this or that, it's hard to tell if you're going to get what you bloody well paid for. I paid 60 fucking bucks for this goddamn game, and it is worth every bloody cent. And I just cannot recommend it enough, for this truly is one of the titans of gaming. A first-person shooter of the highest order. A game that is without a doubt a masterpiece. As I said all those years ago when Wolfenstein The New Order was released, play this fucking game. Be it on the PC, Xbox, PS4, hell, if you have to borrow a fucking Switch and play it in tablet mode, do it! For this is one of the best gaming experiences of the current era. The decade of the 2020s is off to a fuck-awesome start, and I hope that this trend continues, and I really hope that the next Doom game is just as mind-blowing as this one. I am GeneralLotz, wishing you good, oops, all tech base, and good Slayer's Testaments. Hurry up and finish that bastard already! Whatever makes you happy. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing, and if you can, please consider supporting me on Patreon so that I can continue bringing you this awesome content.